Okay. Thank you very much, Jane, and hello, everybody. So to Jane's point, I'm going to talk a little bit about USA TouchPoints and share some of our perspectives on it. I'll start off just with a brief description of what it is, what it's all about, what makes it different and unique and innovative. And then I'm going to go into what I'll call sort of speed data-ing, because I want to walk you through some of the pictures of what the data actually looks like and give you a sense of how we're thinking about using it and some of the new insights that we're able to get from USA TouchPoints. Okay, sort of beating a dead horse for sure. I think we spent a lot of time today talking about the world we live in and how much more challenging and confusing it is. And there's no doubt that I'm not the only one who wakes up every day and thinks about what I have to do from a learning and a research perspective and sort of feels like this is what I'm encountering. It's which way and what am I trying to do and how do we start to understand all the things that are going on. I won't belabor the point, but what I will say is what it all fundamentally means is we need to think differently about how we measure. And we need to move beyond measuring media in silos and thinking about what we're trying to do, which is fundamentally measuring what people do, when they do it, why they do it, and how we can impact them and be relevant to them. Because the fact that we can understand a simple component of media, while it's important, we need to take a different perspective and think about what are the solutions we need to have in place that help us measure people, track people, understand people, because that's who we're trying to talk to and that's who we're trying to motivate. So let's talk a little bit about TouchPoints and where we think it has great value and some of the work that's been done by the people at the Media Behavior Institute to create USA TouchPoints and deliver it. Here's a couple of key things from an advertiser and an agency perspective that I think is really important. You know, what are we trying to accomplish? And one of the things is when we think about people, how do we find the greatest moments of receptivity? How do we find the opportunities from a marketing perspective to talk to people, knowing all the things that they're doing and understanding where we can find them and at what points in time and how we can be relevant. Fundamentally, that's going to lead to more effective advertising, which is what we're all trying to do, and increase the ROI and get better about connecting with consumers. But equally important on the other side, from a media perspective, is giving people on the media and content side of the business a better understanding of how are people using their brands across platforms, and how can we really leverage that to really grow the business, grow the audiences, and again, really find those key insights around what people are really doing. I think one of the most important things to understand about TouchPoints is this notion of life in context, because it really is something that differentiates the approach, and I think that's really, really important. So we're not just talking about media and media behaviors. We're really talking about what people are doing. You know, how are they living their days? How are they spending their time? What are the things they're actually doing? We're talking about where they are. We're talking about who they're with. We're talking about when, how they feel, and a lot of components that really help us understand what it is that people are actually doing in and around media and in and around those environments versus just their media behaviors. And I think that's something that's really important, that is so critical to our understanding of the marketing opportunities that are available in the marketplace. I think another key part of this, and when we talk about innovation, we all know that we're living in a technology world where people have access to technology, and guess what? We researchers have a ton of access to technology. So why not use it to measure what people are doing? So the approach taken, and one of the things is, you know, it connects with GfK MRI. So it's a recontact of that group of people, which has a lot of value because it means that we can connect it to all the other data that's available there. But I think one amazing thing about it is the use of technology to track what people are doing in a diary in incredibly real-time manner, 30-minute by 30-minute chunks. So we know where people are, we know what they're doing, and we can track that and measure it through an app on a mobile device. So again, innovation in measurement. And one of the things that this helps to do is, you know, when we think about diary measurement and cross-media, the use of a diary, oftentimes we're challenged with, when are people going to actually fill that in? And are they going to remember what they did? This defeats that. It gets around it by offering and using a technology that almost every single person right now walks around with, and being able to track people through their day and through their lives. And again, the who, the what, the where, the when of their media and their life. Another key component that was touched on earlier, but this notion of data fusions. How do we start to bring the component pieces together in a new way and in an innovative way? So while we've got the core touchpoints component, there's also connectivity through data fusion with other syndicated data sources, which again adds more value and helps fill in any gaps that we can't get from just a diary type methodology, which really adds to the usability, and it adds to the way we can look at and drill into the data to really understand what's happening. So here's the example I want to kind of quickly run through, and it's around adults 21 to 34. We all know they're a tough group to follow. Their media habits are incredibly complicated, and we've certainly looked at these data for moms and for other segments, but what I wanted to share is a view of how you can use the touchpoints data to understand this target, which anyone who markets to them knows that they are a tough target to follow and to understand. So I'm going to run through some of the data here. And then I'll share a quick case study of how touchpoints has been able to be used and prove the results of the insights to action. Here's one of the things I like actually about touchpoints is this whole area of moods and mindsets. And this looks at the total day view. So how do people feel, male and female, 21 to 34s, in total during the day? Well, one of the things that stands out is they're happy most of the time, which is kind of a nice thing. The other thing is look at how different men and women are in that group in terms of confidence and the level of frustration and boredom and overwhelm. And again, when we think of some of our roles as media and communication planners, it's more important than ever to understand what is it that people are feeling as they go through their day. What's their mindset and their mood while they're using media, and this really helps there. Just a broad look at media usage. And I always kind of stop at this slide because I think it's really important to keep in mind that this isn't actually that easy to get historically from one source that measures people's media use in an incredibly granular way across all media. Doesn't really exist or hasn't historically existed. So just knowing the percent of people reached in live TV and DVR and VOD and so on is incredibly important. And what we can see here is a portrait of their media world that is much more digitally centric. It's much more in their control, and it's much more active. Again, high-level view, but really, typically we don't get to see this kind of information from a source collecting granular media information. The other thing that we're able to do, and as I said, we're tracking people by half hour throughout their day. And this looks at males 21 to 34 over the course of a day by hour. And one of the things I wanted to show and really help to understand is look at the usage of digital media, so the internet through the course of the day. Audio, non-radio, right? Other audio devices that they're using and its prevalence through the day. So we will sit with a lot of our marketer clients and they say, I know they're digital, but how can you prove it? And when are they using it? And how much are they using it? This really helps inform that. And the trend for women is even more extreme when we think about how they're living their day in an increasingly digital world and a digital environment. Another component of touch points that lets us look at things, because we know what people are doing, we also know who they're with when they're doing it. So we know that social media is a big deal. We know that. We're trying to understand that like everybody else is. But here what we're looking at is we're combining media and who they're with. And these are people who spend a lot of time with media with their friends. So all their media becomes social, and social opportunities, and opportunities for us to engage with them when they're going to be talking and sharing with other people, in person or through other technology and devices. Touchpoints also lets us go deep and down into the data a lot more. So here we're just looking at two things, their internet activities and mobile activities. Clearly, this is a group of people who are leading the digital revolution and continue to drive it. If you just look at the things that are in green, and those are indexed to the total adult 18+ population, almost across the board, they are more likely to do every single thing. And if you take this information and you break it down more, you really see it come to life. So again, we know they're hard to forget. We know they're living digital. We know they're leading the pack. This really helps illustrate where they are, what they're doing, what are those detailed activities that we need to know and understand, and where the opportunities are going as we track their behaviors and compare them to all the other media that they're using as well. I talked a little bit about the data fusions, and there's data fusion with Nielsen as well as TalkTrack, which is a word-of-mouth tracking study. And here's a couple of examples that I want to show you. Here's what we're looking at here, is people who talk about technology, who are adults 21 to 34, and when they seek information about products and services on the internet and mobile devices. So if we want to go after these people when they're looking for information or understand where we really connect with them, this helps us and helps inform that. And what you see midday is when they're really active in terms of search behavior, looking for product information. Think of the receptivity, right? We know they're looking for product information. What a great time to talk to them. What a great time to be a part of their world and to connect and take advantage of that. Here's another example. Here we're looking at beverage talkers, more likely to watch sports-related programming. Important to know, to understand who are these people who are going to drive that conversation. And when we want to be part of that sports community and that sports world, we can start to identify the opportunities, not just in terms of content, but again, if you look at the information at the other side of the screen, we're able to see when that happens. What are the times of day when that actually happens? Again, bringing those pieces together. All right, a quick case study. This actually comes from my colleagues in the UK, where TouchPoints has existed for a number of years. And the reason I'm using this as an example is we just haven't had the data here long enough to have the full case study from application to results. And I think it's really important that one of the takeaways here today is it drives results. It drives decision making that leads to better marketing ROI for advertisers. And that's really, again, one of the key components of this. So here's the example. Brand strategy, be a creative idea amplifier. So this whole notion of me time and really surrounding her in category relevant environments and at category relevant times. When she's feeling a certain way, when she's feeling overwhelmed, when she's into her household chores, when she just feels like, I don't have enough time to do anything, but I have all these things to do for my home, for my family, in my world. And here's a really simple example of this, right? We said, well, let's look at when she's feeling the most hectic and when she's doing the chores that involve our products as a brand and as a company. And what we clearly see here, morning is just hectic, crazy, crazy time. So we started to say, hey, you know what, maybe there's something here. Maybe there's something we can build around this idea of her mindset in the morning, what she's doing in the morning, and surround her and give her that peace and create that sort of moment of indulgence in those environments where she just feels like chaos. So the next thing we do is say, all right, well, what are the media environments that present an opportunity? TV does, absolutely. That's the red line. But what we saw here is radio actually presents the greatest opportunity. Now here's the reality. This was a client that the default, and this is not uncommon, the default was television. Of course, we're gonna go TV because that makes sense. But here what we were able to do is actually use the data to say, you know what, it's not that we're saying TV doesn't have an opportunity, but take a look at the environment, take a look at what we're trying to do, and let's look at radio as a big and better opportunity. And these data played a massive role in getting our clients to really see it, see where the opportunity was, and to think through, all right, what are those opportunities? And where we went to is weekday, morning only. Zero in on those moments. You know, be as relevant and concise and focused as we can, and create custom creative around this whole idea, around the idea and the moment. And here are the results. I can't show you the actual data, but here's what I can tell you. Significant increases across every piece of the funnel. Awareness, consideration, brand equity, and purchase intent. Attributable to radio. Okay? There was TV in the mix. So we looked at radio versus television, and could we tease out the results in that way? And in this case, we could, and we saw that radio, which typically would have been a tiny portion of the investment, actually worked harder than television. And again, without the TouchPoints data, we wouldn't have got there. And the third thing is we saw sales spikes when we were able to bring the radio together with in-store promos. So again, very simple example of using the data that helps us understand people, the context of their lives, where the opportunities are to be the most relevant, build the right messaging around that, and then proof that, you know what, it actually works. Really quickly, two more things. The planner's delight. we've been working with some of our planners internally, and I wanted to share a quote here from one of them. It says, "TouchPoints, it's a welcome addition to our insight repertoire. It helps us better understand our consumers, reach them more effectively, and uncover new opportunities." It's new, it's innovative, and it's exciting because it gives people a new perspective that follows people across their media day, that really helps us understand what people are doing, how they're feeling, and where our opportunities are to be most relevant to them. So what difference can all this make? One is it helps us understand the context of people's lives. And again, it takes us out of these media silos into understanding and following people and what people are doing, where they're doing it, when they're doing it, and how we can actually connect with them. So just from an insight perspective, but all the way through to activating what we're trying to do. New insights on real-world behavior, right? That's what we're trying to understand. We're trying to understand people's behaviors. And most of the time, from a media measurement perspective, we are falling short. This really helps fill that gap in I think, a really important way. And it starts to really speak to new opportunities, right? Every marketer, and every agency person, and I think every person in this room, we want to create new ideas. We want the fodder to come up with something new and different, and I think these are the kind of data and these are the kind of innovative approaches that we need to help get us there. And at the end of the day, improving marketing programs, getting smarter about what we do, getting smarter about talking to people and how we talk to them is going to mean better ROI, which is going to mean better revenue, better salaries, better growth for everybody in this room. And I think at the end of the day, that's probably a good thing. Thank you.